Hello everyone and welcome to another weekly tutorial from the Drawing Factory. This time you will learn how to draw Darth Vader from the Star Wars universe created by George Lucas. Darth Vader, born Anakin Skywalker, is a fictional character in the Star Wars universe. He appears in the original trilogy as a pivotal figure, as well as the prequel trilogy as a central figure. Originally a Jedi prophesied to bring balance to the Force, he falls to the dark side of the Force and serves the evil Galactic Empire at the right hand of his Sith master Palpatine. For this tutorial I used the drawing software Sketchbook Pro, but you can use whichever software you are comfortable working with, or you can do it simply using pencil and paper. There is really nothing too fancy with using a drawing software, it's just a convenient way for me to draw on screen and record this tutorial for you. While I draw on a screen, I will be showing the image that I used as a reference for this drawing. On top of it, you can see how I drew my smart grid that I used as a reference to then draw the character with precision. I have talked in more detail about this technique in other tutorials and I'm not going to expand on it here, but feel free to ask any questions in the comments section below. I will start by saying that this is going to be an advanced tutorial, particularly with the coloring of the drawing. However, do not be taken back by the apparent difficulty. The drawing part is really not that hard and the coloring really needs only a little bit of patience, so buckle up. Using the grid as a reference, start by drawing the helmet of Darth Vader, as you see in the image here. Try to be precise, because all the shapes and lines forming the helmet of Darth Vader need to be positioned correctly to obtain a nice final result. So try to draw with an eye for symmetry here, and where possible use a ruler to draw straight lines. Next step is to draw the shape of the face of the helmet of Darth Vader, so to speak. As you can see, it has a geometrical shape that you should be able to reproduce easily. Also, position the triangular shape that forms the upper part of the breather on the mask. Now, draw the eyes, or lenses if you want, of the mask. Again, try to be symmetrical and make sure to draw them correctly. So, the final result will in fact depend on the way you have positioned all these different parts. Okay, now there is quite a step here, but nothing to be afraid of. Use the grid if you have drawn it, or just follow along using my drawing as a reference. At this stage we need to sketch in the major planes of the mask. It's really not easy to explain, just look at the drawing and try to follow it as closely as possible. This step of drawing all the different planes seen from the front is really the most difficult part of the drawing section of this tutorial. So once you've established all the planes of the mask, you just need to draw the protective grid situated in the breather and two lines, just two darker lines underneath the lenses. Also draw a few lines on the helmet, like I did. These are going to be useful at the coloring stage to draw the light reflections on the helmet. And that's it really, there aren't that many lines or details forming the helmet and mask of Darth Vader, seen from the front at least. In this last step you just need to refine things a little, clean the drawing from extra lines and refine where you can. I have added the neck and shoulder of Darth Vader as well, because I did not want to draw a floating head. The most important details at this stage are the notches on the curvature of the nose of the mask, the triangular shape below the mouth breather, which will fill with an additional grid at the coloring stage. Alright, if you have followed so far, you should be all set for coloring your drawing. I won't lie to you, this tutorial has given me a lot of grief, as there are so many difficult aspects to it. To start with, the base color is, well, black, or in this case a dark blue, as you can see in my drawing, which makes things more difficult to see overall. Also, the surface of the helmet and mask is reflective, which makes the render more difficult. I have tried to break it down though into very small chunks, so believe in yourself and let's get started. First step, apply a flat base color to the drawing. I have used a light blue for the mouth grid and a dark blue for everything else. Why not black, you may ask? Well, in the real world black is never black, there's always a shade of color or a tint to it, so in this case I decided to use a dark blue as a base to tint the whole drawing with it. Because I was going crazy working with these dark colors on top of my sketch lines, which were black as well, I changed the color of the sketch lines to a whitish tint so I and you could see better what is going on. I will focus on the mask first and I'll explain things in more detail for the mask. However, the same principles will apply when we get to coloring the actual helmet of Darth Vader. The first thing to do is to disregard the various planes at this stage and treat the whole mask, neck and shoulder as a single solid object. So what I did was really just applying with an airbrush tool a soft shadow to all the surfaces that are in shadows or that cast shadows onto each other. I have left a little light on the lenses and the middle portion of the mask. I haven't applied any shadowing for the grid at this stage. Alright, deep shadows are laid on the face and neck of the mask, so we are lighting things up a little bit on the neck. See, from the two sides of the neck? This moves us one step closer to the end and also helps separate visually the neck area from the chin and head area. Also paint the nose of the mask and the chrome tips at the sides of the mouth breather. This stage involves adding a subtle highlight on certain areas of the mask. You can probably see I've added subtle highlights on the nose, the upper line of the eyes, the separation lines between the panels and planes of the mask, and on the notches of the nose as well. All this to pinpoint where light is hitting the mask and to start bringing those forms out of the blackness of the mask. Continuing here, adding highlights and detail to the mask of Darth Vader at this stage. As you can see here, I've been adding more highlights all around the mask, particularly on edges and points where the light is going to hit the mask harder. Here, I've also decided to add a dropped shadow from the muzzle of the breather onto the breather grid. Can you see how this simple act made the grid look three-dimensional and making that portion of the mask look more realistic? We're almost done with the face of the mask, can you believe it? Now it's just a matter of adding even stronger highlights on areas of the mask, always edges and points which are reflecting light directly. For these highlights, however, use pure white. Can you see the highlights on the nose and the grid on the mouth? At this stage I've also drawn the tiny grid underneath the main grid on the mouth breather and on the neck. Now that the face of the mask has been taken care of, it's time to move on to the helmet. As I anticipated before, the same principles apply in coloring the helmet. We'll start by laying deeper shadows all over the helmet first and subsequently adding light using a technique that combines the use of a selecting tool and an airbrush set to very low opacity. Did you notice that the highlights on the helmet have hard edges? That's because I selected that area using a selection tool and filled them using an airbrush and adding layer over layer, building up light slowly. Now it's time to add the hard reflection or spot reflections on the helmet. To achieve these, use white or almost white color and apply it using an airbrush set to a low to lowish opacity. Time to add the final touches and finished drawing. I've added a big spot highlight in the middle of the helmet. I drew the plates covering the upper part of Darth Vader's torso and overall refined the helmet by adding further highlights on the sides of the helmet. From this point on, all you could really spend a long time refining further the drawing and the painting, adding highlights and making it look as awesome as you want. But I'll finish it here as I'm satisfied with the way that it turned out. And there you have it, the final drawing of Darth Vader created with a complex yet detailed step-by-step tutorial. I really hope it helped you learn how to draw Darth Vader. I hope you liked this tutorial, and if you guys really want me to make more of these, please let me know in the comment section below. Also, please like this video if you like it and dislike it if you disliked it, because that's the only way that I'll be able to know if you want me to make more of this. It's absolutely important for me to understand what you guys really want me to make, so if you could spare the time, that would be absolutely fantastic. For this week is all from me, and I'll catch you all drawing next week with a new tutorial. And as always, thanks for watching.